So today I wanted to talk about a concept called government by algorithm, which looks into how algorithms and other formalized standards of processing information are used to influence, regulate, and govern people in society. And I'm not using this video to advocate for any specific given, political ideology or anything like that. I'm more so just looking at the concept as a higher level abstract metaphysical thing that could be applied to different areas of society or different areas of human governance, right? And before I talk about anything, I want to clarify the concept of social machines because I'm probably going to be using that term a few times throughout this video. There are a few definitions for the term social machine, but the one I'm going to be using is essentially a system that people use for communication, where the system they're using to communicate heavily affects, influences, or manipulates the communication itself. Like Twitter, for example, you used to be able to only type so many characters to a tweet, right? Which would heavily encourage people to give out very short, catchy posts to catch people's attention and to get people talking, right? And because of the way tweets are structured and the way they are boosted in the algorithm, they're not really, or Twitter as a, communication platform isn't really best suited for long-term nuanced discussion about very sensitive topics, right? Because it's inherently just going to cause people, either consciously or subconsciously, to push out the most eye-catching, attention-seeking, most extreme stuff out there to catch people's attention to get them to click on their profile and whatever, right? And obviously social media or even the internet is not the only things that this concept of a social machine can apply to. You can also apply the same concept to traditional news media or, academic communication systems where the communication itself is heavily influenced or affected by the underlying technology it uses, right? And when I talk about government by algorithms, I'm not specifically talking about like hardware and like computers and all this imagery of like the cyberpunk dystopia of all these machines being used to make major decisions in society, right? I'm mainly talking about the processes of which we use to make decisions and determine some conclusion from some given information, which can often be described pretty easily in computer algorithms. Algorithms and the way we process information is obviously having an increasing amount of influence in our own lives and of society at large. They're used to assess risk in things like medical conditions, criminal reoffenses, and economic risks such as in credit scores, right? And these algorithms also have very big influence in banks and big tech companies that you can also say regulate and govern our lives to a certain extent. There have even been comparisons between algorithms and law, in that they both use a given set of information or conditions to come to some specific conclusion that, serves some function or purpose, right? So in an algorithm that could be assessing financial risk based on a certain set of conditions, and in law that could be handing out some sort of punishment or sentence to some civil or criminal offense, right? Even though laws are nowhere near as deterministic or written to be as detailed and precise as algorithms, obviously. But that's just because the world is a lot more gray than computers. But still, a comparison still stands that they can both be viewed as processes for determining a conclusion based on a given set of information, right? Usually for decision making. And through this lens, you could also see individual types of governments as their own sort of algorithms, right? You can see democracy or a republic or a dictatorship or an oligarchy as its own sort of algorithm and decision making process. And even though they aren't very computable, it's still a very interesting way to look at any decision-making body in terms of algorithms. But if I were to give my own opinion on computable algorithms being used in decision-making processes, I would advocate for the application of cryptographic and open-source philosophies to the design of these algorithms. And by that I mean any algorithm used to make any major decision by any public entity should be extensively tested and researched to make sure there is no errors, no statistical biases, no undesired outcomes given certain data, right? And it should also be made open source and publicly available for everybody to see. There should be no obscurity when it comes to its exact computation or its exact implementation. And in general, people should have a right to know exactly how decisions are made by these algorithms that govern them. Just like we should have the right to know exactly how decisions are made in other government bodies, decision-making bodies such as Congress or the Supreme Court, right? And obviously there should be nuance to how exactly these algorithms are tested and made publicly available. Just like there should be nuance to how exactly these algorithms are even implemented in the first place to solve problems and make major decisions, right? Realistically, when algorithms are implemented into the decision-making process for governing bodies, it's pretty unlikely that they would follow these principles since a lot of it is outsourced to private companies and they are economically self-interested to keep these processes and algorithms proprietary and to keep them under their own control so that people would have to pay them to actually compute any decision to be made. And they could modify the algorithm or any part of the decision-making process however they want, depending on what exactly fits their needs or suits their interests at the time, right? All in all, there's a lot to talk about when it comes to this topic, but I would not really be an advocate for any algorithms to make major decisions in governing bodies, unless there is a certain amount of transparency provided for the exact definition and implementation details of such algorithms, and even then, algorithms shouldn't always be used to make decisions in human society, or else that'll lead to things like mass surveillance and social reputation scores and things like that, right? There is definitely room for computable algorithms to benefit humanity in terms of certain problems when it comes to things like medicine or economics, but they should never be just the sole decision maker in these sorts of policies. They should be another factor or a tool by the human decision maker to be better informed about the current situation or the current conditions of the problem to solve at hand, right? And once again, I think the main problem with these algorithms as they stand now is the lack of transparency, especially in the context of social machines that heavily influence the way people communicate and govern themselves. This also ties into the right to explanation movement that you could search up and look into, which is basically the right for any decision-making process governed by AI or any other computable algorithm to be made transparent and open to the public so that they could actually audit and challenge the decision that was made. But these algorithms aren't going away anytime soon, so it would be best that they are implemented in such a way that they are beneficial to people, and if they aren't, that they can be easily challenged and replaced by a different decision-making process.